Hey everyone, it's Melissa. Welcome back or welcome to Honeybee's Hangout. I hope everyone's having a great week. And welcome back to a more structured Top 5 Friday. Last week we took a little break because it was my birthday. And we talked a little bit about what I wanted for the coming year, for myself, for my loved ones, for the country and the world, and then just sort of in general, like lifelong dreams. But today we're going to go back to making an actual list. And today's list, we're going to talk about children's books. Now, I love reading and I love books, and I actually learned to read books on my own super young. I started reading when I was 4. So I read so many books as a child that I kind of had to break it down into different types of books. So for this list, I started with picture books, like the first books I would have read as a little girl. Even like into ones that originally my parents would read them to me, and then I learned to read them on my own. So the first book on that list is going to be The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, which was written in 1964. There's a lot of weird interpretations of this book. If you're not familiar with it, it is a book about an apple tree. And this little boy that used to come and play with her, and then as he grew, he sort of lost his connection to her because he went to school and then he got a girlfriend and then he got married, and he had his own children. And so then the tree was super sad, but she kept like giving him things that he needed to make his way through life. So her branches, and then her apples, and then her branches, and then her trunk. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, the boy himself gets older, and his family goes on their way and does their own thing, and he comes back to the tree, and he sits down with her, and they're just together, and they're just chilling, and the tree's super happy about it. And a lot of people, and a lot of like younger people in particular, I think they interpret it in a really weird way. It's like people will say that that it teaches you that you're supposed to give and give and give of yourself until there's nothing left to give, and nobody appreciates you, but you give anyway, and it destroys you. And it's just like, I mean, seriously, I feel like if that's how you're viewing a children's book, maybe therapy helps. Because I will say that I actually used to be a person that did that kind of stuff, and I did not learn it from the Giving Tree. I learned it from society, particularly as a woman in society, that if you say no, you are selfish, and being selfish is always, always, always bad, which it is not. It's totally fine to think of yourself sometimes. But it just seems like such a weird interpretation. When I was a little girl, my mom used to explain it to me as basically giving is its own reward, is what she would say. So when you do something for someone, you don't do it because you expect something in return. You do it because you care about that person. You do it because you want to help that person. You you do it, and it's okay to feel good about yourself for doing it. Like, oh, I really helped that person. It's not like arrogant to feel that way. But you don't expect them, you wouldn't be like, oh, no, well, now you owe me one. And you don't like hold it over their heads. I have been on the receiving end of treatment from people that could stand to read the giving tree, and stand to have somebody's mother tell them how it ought to be. Because I've had situations where I've been desperate for help, and a certain person or people have helped me, but then they just bring it up over and over again. Like, remember, oh, I hoped you do that. And that's kind of crappy. Like, that's not how you're supposed to do it. It's you're supposed to help people, for the sake of helping them. If you're not gonna do that, then maybe just don't help them. Let them find another way. So that's what my mom taught me that it was about. Like, you give for the sake of giving, and you feel joyful about that. You don't give expecting the person you're giving to do something for you in return, because that's not genuine kindness. But as I got older, like, I don't have kids myself, yet. I mean, I would like to, but I don't know. I'm getting very old at this point. But it's like, when I think about like parents and children, like my mom, not me, because I never left home, and I'm at this point in my life, I'm probably gonna live with my mother until like the rest of her life, and then I'm probably gonna have to find another relative to go live with, because I feel like that's just my lot in life. But when I think about like my brother growing up, you know, getting girlfriends, going away to college, living in another state, even like he came back for a little bit to go to school, and then bought his own house, and it's like 10 minutes away, but he's got a girlfriend, and they're raising her son, and he's got 2 jobs. And so and then like with my cousins or whatever, and I think about like the giving tree, the way the giving tree is structured, and parents and children. And it's sort of like, almost seems like maybe that was the point in it all. Like, you have the tree who's like the mother figure, and this little boy comes to her really young, and she gives him, like, at first, like, they're best friends, and they hang out all the time, and they play, and then he starts to grow up, and he goes to school, and he gets girlfriends, and he gets married, and he has his own children. And along the way, the tree gives him what he needs to make his life successful. You know, he needs to build a house, and she gives him wood. You know, he's hungry, and she gives him apples. Like, and I saw I don't know if it was a movie or a TV show, but there were 2 parents, like 2 moms talking, and the mom said the thing about raising children is that if we do our job well, they wind up leaving us. And so that's almost kind of what I think the purpose of the giving tree might be. That, you know, she's giving him everything he needs to be able to go off into the world and survive without her. And I think that makes way more sense than the really negative, cynical perspective that people have on it. But what do I know? I mean, everybody, you know, any kind of art, books, or music, or film, or whatever, it's all open to interpretation, right? That's sort of the whole point of it. I think that's why a lot of like, in particular musicians, like, they don't talk about what something means, or what actually inspired them to write a certain thing, because they want the people, reading it to interpret it in their own way. So that's what I see in that book. And I think the multiple ways that I've seen that book as I've grown up is what keeps it being one of my favorites, and why I keep, I give it to people as a gift when they have children. And maybe if you're viewing it negatively, you need to try to read it from the tree is his mother perspective, and then think about how you treat your own mother. If she's an asshole, then don't worry about it. But if she's a good mother and you haven't called her lately and you haven't gone to spend time with her, then maybe you need to treat her better. Pay a little more attention to her. Okay, sorry. That's my soapbox book. The next story that I remember really, really loving is a book called Caps for Sale. And that was written by, hold on, this is a hard name to pronounce. It's Esfer Slobodkina in 1940. So it's the oldest book that's on the list. And if you're not familiar with it, it is the story of a gentleman who sells different color caps. And in order to go and sell them, he stacks them all up on his head in the morning. And one day, well, he starts having some trouble. And the trouble is that there are these monkeys in the trees, and they keep taking his caps. So he will stack up so he puts on his hat, and then all of the hats of different colors he stacks up. Well, then these monkeys keep knocking his caps off his head. They keep stealing them. And little by little, this man loses all his caps to these monkeys in the trees. Ultimately, he gets super frustrated, and he takes off his own cap and he slams it on the ground, and the monkeys are mocking him, so they throw all of their caps on the ground, and then he's able to get his caps back. As a kid, I thought this story was hilarious. I don't think there's any sort of hidden meaning behind it. I think it's just meant to be funny, because first of all, I don't think if you were a cap salesman that you would really carry your caps around that way. You'd probably have a basket or a backpack or maybe a little push cart. Even in 1940, I feel like you would have. I don't think in the 40s that people were carrying their goods around with them on their heads. I could be wrong. But there's just so many, I remember the man gets mad at the monkeys, and he's shaking his hand at the monkeys, and then all of the monkeys start shaking their hands at the man. And I just remember at 3, 4, 5 thinking that was the most hilarious thing in the world. I brought it up to my mom last night, and she does not remember that book at all. She actually doesn't remember a few of the books that I put on my list, which leads me to wonder, what was she not paying attention through my entire childhood? I feel like maybe she was just reading the books on autopilot, and not actually paying attention to them. She remembers The Giving Tree, and she remembers one other one, which I'm actually going to show you because I don't know how many people actually know that book. But does not remember Caps for Sale, and does not remember this other book, number 3, which is, it's called The Shyest Kid in the Patch. And it is what it probably sounds like. It's a Cabbage Patch Kids book. So the book was written in 1984. It was written by a guy named Mark Taylor. Now, I tried to look up to see what his actual job was, because I didn't know if he was actually a children's book author, or if he was because they did a lot of where they would take the book and then they would kind of animate it and do voiceovers for it. So I didn't know if he was an animator or if he was an author or what he did. But there are so many Mark Taylors in the entertainment industry that I could not for the life of me figure out which one it was. So I don't know what he actually did. But it was obviously based on the Cabbage Patch Kids dolls that were created by Xavier Roberts. And in the 1980s, early to mid 1980s, when I was a little girl, they were the be all and end all little girl's toy. Um, I mean, everybody had at least one, and they were, you see, like, they'll do documentaries sometimes on like popular toys and stuff, and you see like the videos from the malls and the toy stores in the early to mid 80s with just like absolute pandemonium, like as if these dolls were made of gold. Like trying to get them, grown ass women trying to get these dolls for their kids for Christmas, and like beating each other up and elbowing each other and shoving each other. Um, I guess I got lucky. I I don't think my family members had to go out and like cause that sort of ruckus to get me a doll. I remember getting one for my birthday. Um, and she had brown hair and brown eyes just like me, and she was fabulous. Um, and then I went on to get a few more throughout my life, and then I don't know what happened to them. They might have, we had an incident in my family called the Great Flood, where my aunt's basement flooded and a lot of us lost like a bunch of our belongings. So they might have drowned in the Great Flood, to be perfectly honest. But I do have actually some now from like re-releases, anniversary editions, and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. But this book, there used to be a series of books that you could buy with that told stories about the Cabbage Patch. And this book called The Shyest Kid in the Patch was very meaningful to me because I was, like, I've talked about this in a previous video, I was a really shy, like painfully shy little girl. So in this story, it is a girl named Sally Faye, and she's born in the Cabbage Patch, and she's super shy, and it's really hard for her to make friends. And then finally, these other little Cabbage Patch kids, they start talking to her and being friendly to her. And one of them I seem to remember was named Gilda Sue, and I don't know why I remember that. I did not remember the name Sally Faye. I actually looked that up. It was in the description of the book, but for some reason I remember Gilda Sue being one of her friends. Um, and then one day they're out in the Cabbage Patch, and this big, mean, nasty jackrabbit comes along, and he's trying to kidnap all of these little Cabbage Patch kids and shove them in a bag. Well, Sally Faye gets so upset about it because these are her only friends, and she plucks up her courage and she marches up to this jackrabbit and basically shouts at him that he needs to let go of her friends because they're the only friends that she has. And then, for good measure, she kicks him in the shin and he drops the bag and they all run away. And everything's better. I'm guessing that I got that book as a kid because it was supposed to maybe encourage me to be a little braver. It didn't work. So that sucked. Because it stayed really, really hard for me to make friends for a long time until like high school. But then again, it's still hard for me to make friends now. I guess I just lucked out in high school. I just came across like one or two people that were really awesome, and they introduced me to all of their friends. But I used to love that book, and I did. I used to want to like. I had trouble wrapping my mouth around the name Gilda, but it was just a little bit much for a 5-year-old. But I wanted to be like brave, like Sally Faye. I really did. I just wasn't. But we used to read that book all the time, and my great aunt Kai used to read me that book all the time. And I wish I could find like, I haven't read it in so many years. I guess it just got, donated. When I outgrew children's books, I guess it got donated to like the thrift store or something. but I would like to maybe go on like eBay or something and see if I could find a copy of it, just to add to my collection. Like I went and got, like, I don't have my original copy of The Giving Tree, but I have a new copy. I don't have, and I don't have an original copy of the next book, what I'm going to talk about, which is Wacky Wednesday. But I do have a new copy of that I got like 20 years ago as an adult. So I don't know what I did with my copy of Wacky Wednesday. It's got to be around here somewhere, because I know that I still have one. But this book, the authorship of this book confused the crapola out of me for years. I spent my whole life thinking it was a Dr. Seuss book. And then when I was in like my early 20s, and this would have been, I mean, it was like really pre everyone having internet in their homes. Like some people did, but not everyone. Like 1999, 2000. You couldn't just like automatically just go and like Google wasn't a thing. Everything was like AOL. So I remember going into a bookstore when those were still a huge thing, because again, Amazon wasn't a thing, and seeing the book and it had a different name on the title. So then I remember being like really screwed. The name on the title was Theo Lasig. And then I remember being really messed up in the head and thinking to myself, I could have sworn Wacky Wednesday was a Dr. Seuss book. And then the internet becomes prominent and Google becomes a thing. And ultimately I find out that it is in fact a Dr. Seuss book. It's just Dr. Seuss writing under a different name, which was very confusing. So in the end, I was vindicated because I was positive it was a Dr. Seuss book, and it turned out to be a Dr. Seuss book. There was just that several year period in there where it appeared that I might be incorrect, but in the end I was not. So there you have it. I love this book. It was like Dr. Seuss slash like Where's Waldo. It starts off, I walk around and sometimes my mother tells me there's something wrong with me. A lot of times my mother tells me there's something wrong with me, but in this particular case, it's because I'll like, if I'm having like a weird day or something, like I'll walk around and I'll be like, it all began with that shoe on the wall. A shoe on the wall shouldn't be there at all, because that's how the book starts. And then on every page, the number of things that is weird increases. So, this is 3 weird things, 4 or 5, up to, I want to say it goes up to 10. And so you read it, and it is one of the first books that I learned to read on my own, but then also you have the kids find like all the things that are weird. So it's like, what do you call them? Seek and finds, the pictures with like, you have to find certain things in the picture / like Where's Waldo. But I had so much fun. It made me laugh so much. And it's probably, I don't know if I was forgetful because I was a little kid, or if I was forgetful because I'm forgetful, because I'm still forgetful. But I always I would forget where things were on the page. So it was a brand new game every single time. And it is not one of the books that they're discontinuing because they have racist imagery in them. So you don't have to worry about that. It is everyone in those books, all the people in those books look like normal people. In the Wacky Wednesday book, everyone's normal. There's no weirdness. But because I was, forgetful. Because I was forgetful, it's like I could play that game multiple times. You could play over and over again. It's like watching like CSI or Criminal Minds or something like that. Like, if you're forgetful, you could watch the reruns and it's like they're brand new shows, because if you don't remember how it ends, then it's new to you, even if it's been on 10 times. I watch a lot. I have watched reruns of Criminal Minds a lot. And people are like, why do you watch them if you've already seen them? Well, I don't remember how they end because forgetful. So they're new to me. So the last book that I want to talk about, I actually have here. And I wanted to show it to you because I'm not sure when I mention, like when we're talking about our favorite books from when we were kids, and I bring this book up to people, I don't think I've ever met anyone that's ever read it, or has any memory of it. I don't know how I got it. I just remember always having it. And this is actually, there's no cover on it. Obviously there's this cover that it had like a dust jacket type thing, with a really beautiful picture. But this book is now like 40 years old, so that cover is long gone. But the book is called Dawn, and it's by an author named Molly Bang, and this was written in 1983. And it's kind of an unusual story. Oh wait, I didn't realize I wrote my name in it. You can see my name real big when I was like 3 years old. Oh, and apparently did some doodling. But this is an unusual story. It is a story about a little girl. It starts off with a little girl named Dawn, and she's talking to her father. And he's telling her about how he met her mother. He was a sailmaker, and he met her mother, and they had her, and the mother used to make these beautiful sails. And I almost don't want to tell you how it ends, because I almost like want you to see if you can buy a copy of it or take a copy out, like especially if you have kids, take a copy out from the library. I will say this, it's sad. Like, it's sad for a children's book. And I've gone through, like, so I loved it. I loved it as a little girl. And then when I got old enough, like in my teens, to realize how sad it was, then I said to my mom, why in God's name did you read me this depressing book when I was a child? Now, as an adult, like since I've been an adult, and I've reread it a few times, it is still sad. It is still really sad. It's also a really beautiful story. It's really beautifully told, and I'll show you like some of this is my actual, as I said, this is my actual copy. So this is the copy that I've read like hundreds of times in my life. But so this is like some of the artwork in it. That's Dawn, and that's her father. And this is a picture of when her mother shows up, and the father first meets the mother. And then, they have Dawn, and she makes these beautiful sails. And there's just like, I really love this picture. This is like, he makes the ships and the mother makes the sails. So this is the dad working on the ships, and you see Dawn with her little mallet. So I will tell you what happens. The upshot is the father goes out, he finds a goose. And the goose is injured, and he rescues it, and he takes care of it. And not long after is when Dawn's mother shows up. And they get married and they have Dawn, and she makes these beautiful, beautiful sails for the ships that he's making. But the agreement that he has with the mother is, she'll make the sails, but she has to be left alone all the time while she's working. So at the end of the day, if you read the book, you might figure this out. Anyway, you might already have figured it out while I'm talking. Long story short, at the end of the day, they go into the room while the mother's working, even though they're not supposed to. And it turns out that the mother and the goose are one and the same. And at the end of the book, Dawn takes this boat that she and her father had built and basically sets off to go and find her mother, the goose. Literally Mother Goose. So the part of the book where they go in and they realize she's the goose, and then she has to leave because she was seen in her goose form, is super duper sad. It is like a really sad book, but it's also just such a beautifully told story. I'm guessing that the difference in like what kind of content would be in a children's book is a cultural thing. I could do a little more research on Molly Bang because I know that she's written other books, but I don't know a lot about her. But I don't know that, like, I don't think like American books would be written like that. But the illustrations are just so pretty. Like, I wish there was a way to maybe like frame one of those to hang on the wall, like get like a bigger version of it. I can't, like, somebody once told me to get like a second copy of the book and just cut them out, but like I can't bring myself to do that. I can't just bring myself to, like, especially because I don't even know if that book is in print anymore. So if it's not, I wouldn't want to take like an existing copy out of circulation. But I would be really interested to know if anybody else has ever read that book, because literally, like, anytime I talk about children's books with people, like books that we loved when we were kids, even people that grew up at the same time as me, they've never heard of that book. And it's one of my absolute favorites. Like, when I sat down to make the list of like top 5 children's books, that was one of the first things that it was The Giving Tree and Dawn. Those were my two favorite books growing up. And they were the first ones that popped into my head that had to be on the list. And then I had to think a little bit about the other 3 to come up with them. So I would be really interested to know if you've ever read that book, or if you've ever read any other books by the same author, if you have any memories of that, because I've never read any other books by her. And I honestly, still to this day, and I asked my mom because she gave me the book, like the book came from her, and she doesn't remember where she got it. She doesn't remember if someone gave it to her or if she ordered it from somewhere. So we have no idea how we ever wound up with this book. So I would just be interested to know a little bit if anybody else has any experience with this author. So that is my top 5 list of the picture books that I loved most when I was a little kid. I would really like to hear any books that anybody else super loved. I love children's books. If I had the space to have unlimited bookshelves, I would like recollect all the books I loved from when I was a kid. And I would just have a room, like if I could have my own library, I would just have a whole section dedicated to all the books I loved when I was a kid. Who knows? Maybe I'll win the lottery someday. My mom keeps saying we're going to win the lottery, but I keep telling her we have to play the lottery in order to win the lottery, which we never do. Maybe I'll do that today. Maybe I'm feeling lucky this Friday evening. So next week, I'm actually going to do over the weekend some pre-taping for next week. Something for Tuesday and Friday, and possibly the following Tuesday. Because this coming Tuesday, March 9th, I'm gonna be having the carpal tunnel surgery on my left hand. That's my left hand. I had my right hand done already. On my left hand. So I remember that the last time when I had my right hand done, I was super cranky. So I'm assuming it'll be similar this time. Although I am not taking the pain meds they give me this time because that did terrible things to my stomach last time and I was like in tears. So I'm gonna see, like I'm gonna try to stick with ibuprofen and see if that maintains the pain. But I don't, like, if I'm out of sorts or whatever, I don't want to make like stupid videos because I'm like not with it. So tomorrow I'm going to go see my cousin Katie. We're going to make a makeup video. We're going to go to Ulta and do some shopping. I have some birthday dollars to spend. And conveniently, the Ulta is right next to where she works at her part-time job. So we're going to go to the Ulta, pick her up, go home and make a makeup video, and then maybe we're going to go out and eat something. I don't know. And I found this thing. It's called Bandicut. I don't know if anybody has any experience with that, but it says that it's for like just really basic cutting videos and like attaching them. So I actually had to do, when I was recording the first part of this, I brushed the computer and it shut it down. So then I had to finish up in a different video. So I'm going to experiment with this video on seeing if I can get that to work. And if so, it basically is supposed to let you cut and then you can insert other pieces of video and then like join them all together. It's a cutter and joiner program app. If I can get that to work, then I can actually record things outside of my house. Like I could record at the gym or something. And then like kind of put it all together for Tuesday's videos. So that would be cool because that would give me more to do than just sit here and talk. And it would give you more to see than just me sitting here talking. You can see I was gonna say my torturous Y routine, but it's really not that torturous. Like I'm a little bit lame right now. Because I didn't go the whole time. It was like COVID-y, like majorly COVID-y before people were getting vaccinated and stuff. So I'm like getting back into it slowly. But there's this one, it's like this machine where it's for your back. And I guess it's to strengthen your back, like it's like a weight machine. But I like it because you like like you go all the way back to and like push the weights like with your back. And it's not like a lifting, it's a pushing. But there's like this bar, there's this bar that goes across that you're like leaning back over. And when you first go, like you hear, well, I hear because I get stiff and out of shape all the time. I hear my back go like pop, 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 pop. And it's like so good. And you can't replicate that at home. Like there's no, like I've tried using the arm of the couch and it's just not cutting it. So if I figure out how to work this joiner thing, I can actually show you what I mean and why I like this thing. And show you like the track where I walk, as long as there aren't, like, I'm not going to record other people because that's not cool. But really it's been kind of empty. We get there by like 9:15, 9:30. So like in the morning, and normally it would be packed, but with COVID, it's really just not. People aren't going, which is nice right now. So sometimes there's an ability where I could probably take some video on the like walking the track, and there wouldn't be anybody else around, so I wouldn't have to be worried about like invading people's privacy. Yeah, so wish me luck. I'm gonna go try to fix this video up nice, and get it published for you guys, and make some videos this weekend for while I am out of commission with my hand surgery. So I hope everybody has a really great coming week and a half. And I will see you later. Bye.